What do a ship hailed as unsinkable, a poorly executed political coup, and a scientist's wild ambition have in common? Chaos. Chaos doesn't politely knock on the door. It storms in, throws everything out of balance, and forces humanity to adapt or perish. Whether it's a natural disaster, a moment of political upheaval, or a groundbreaking technological misstep, chaotic events disrupt the norm and leave an indelible mark on history. How can moments of sheer chaos radically alter the course of history? By the end of this journey, you'll see how unpredictability often serves as the catalyst for human progress, albeit in painful, unexpected ways. When nature strikes back, the Titanic and Chernobyl. The Titanic. Imagine you're throwing a dinner party and the chef decides to skip fire extinguishers because our oven is too modern to catch fire. That's essentially the mindset behind the construction of the RMS Titanic. Marketed as the unsinkable ship, the Titanic's maiden voyage in 1912 ended in icy catastrophe when it collided with an iceberg in the North Atlantic. The irony? It wasn't the iceberg alone that sank the ship. It was the flawed belief in its invincibility. This disaster is a lesson in cognitive dissonance, where belief in technology's perfection clashed with reality. The White Star Line believed in their own PR so strongly that they equipped the ship with lifeboats for only half the passengers. The aftermath led to stricter maritime safety laws, including lifeboat requirements, and the establishment of the International Ice Patrol. It's as if the Titanic shouted, "Test your systems," while humanity whispered, "Next time, we'll be ready." But the true tragedy of the Titanic lies in its human cost. Not just the lives lost, but the class disparities that doomed so many. The wealthy had better access to lifeboats, while third-class passengers were trapped in lower decks. It's a stark reminder that chaos often amplifies existing inequalities, making it not just a disaster at sea, but a microcosm of societal failings. Even today, the Titanic's story is retold as a cautionary tale of overconfidence and systemic inequality. Themes that resonate across generations. Chernobyl. Fast forward to 1986, and we see a different kind of disaster, one born of systemic failures and human error. Chernobyl wasn't just a nuclear meltdown, it was a chaotic cocktail of mismanagement, arrogance, and panic. The Soviet engineers running the reactor decided to test its emergency systems by disabling key safety mechanisms. Because, what could go wrong? Within hours, Reactor 4 exploded, releasing radiation equivalent to 400 Hiroshima bombs. The psychological concept of overconfidence bias looms large here. Like a gambler who keeps doubling down despite losses, the Soviet Union ignored obvious risks until the damage was catastrophic. The long-term effects? Tens of thousands of cancer cases, a destabilized Soviet regime, and a haunting exclusion zone that's still radioactive today. Yet, this chaos also spurred a global reevaluation of nuclear safety and energy policies. Perhaps the most haunting legacy of Chernobyl lies in its psychological impact. The invisible enemy of radiation created widespread paranoia and mistrust in authority. Villages were abandoned overnight, leaving ghost towns frozen in time. Chernobyl became a symbol of the delicate balance between technological ambition and human responsibility. The site today serves as both a chilling reminder of human fallibility and a strange tourist attraction, drawing visitors curious about humanity's capacity for disaster. Political chaos, revolutions, and overthrows. The French Revolution. Let's talk about the French Revolution, the historical equivalent of setting your house on fire to kill a few rats. In 1789, France's lower classes, fed up with hunger and inequality, decided to dismantle the monarchy. Chaos ensued. The storming of the Bastille, a moment that symbolized the collapse of royal authority, was just the beginning. Soon, guillotines were working overtime, and even revolutionaries like Robespierre found themselves on the chopping block. But amidst the bloodshed, the seeds of modern democracy were sown. Concepts like liberté, égalité, fraternité emerged, shaping future political systems worldwide. Napoleon Bonaparte, arguably the ultimate opportunist, capitalized on this chaos to rise to power. He's a great metaphor here, ambition unchecked by humility. Like a chef who insists on seasoning with gunpowder, Napoleon's quest for control eventually led to his downfall. The French Revolution also highlights the psychological tension of revolutionary zeal. When ideals collide with reality, the result is often a spiral of violence and betrayal. Robespierre's Reign of Terror exemplifies how the pursuit of purity can spiral into paranoia, turning allies into enemies. This chaos wasn't just political, it was deeply personal, reshaping how societies perceive justice and governance. Even as the revolution claimed lives, it also inspired movements globally, from Haiti to Latin America, proving that chaos can both destroy and inspire. The October Revolution. Now, jump to 1917 Russia, where the Romanovs learned the hard way that ruling by divine right doesn't guarantee immunity from chaos. The October Revolution was less about ideology and more about survival. Workers and soldiers, disillusioned by war and starvation, toppled the Tsarist regime, plunging the nation into civil war. Enter Vladimir Lenin, who weaponized chaos to establish the Soviet Union. Lenin's strategy exploited the psychological principle of scarcity mentality. When resources are limited, people will rally behind whoever promises stability. While the revolution did bring change, it also unleashed decades of authoritarian rule. What's fascinating about the October Revolution is its use of propaganda to sustain momentum. Lenin's speeches painted a utopian vision while glossing over the immediate chaos of war and famine. This duality, hope versus harsh reality, is a recurring theme in revolutionary chaos. It's a reminder that chaos isn't always an accident. Sometimes it's meticulously engineered. And like many revolutions, the October Revolution also left an unresolved legacy. The trade-off between stability and freedom that would haunt Soviet policies for decades. Wars that rewrote the world. World War I and II. World War I. Imagine a domino setup so elaborate that one slight nudge topples the whole structure. That's essentially what happened when Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria was assassinated in Sarajevo in 1914. This seemingly isolated event ignited a chain reaction of alliances, war declarations, and global conflict, ultimately plunging the world into the First World War. The war's chaotic nature, trench warfare, mustard gas, and staggering death tolls shattered illusions about the glory of combat. Psychologically, it introduced the world to the concept of collective trauma. Soldiers returned home physically scarred and mentally broken, leading to what we now recognize as PTSD. The war's aftermath reshaped nations and economies, leaving a fragile peace that barely lasted 2 decades. The Treaty of Versailles, intended to bring peace, instead planted the seeds for an even greater chaos. World War II. By imposing harsh reparations on Germany, it created economic despair that fueled extremist ideologies. It's a grim reminder that even well-intentioned resolutions can have unintended consequences, much like trying to extinguish a fire with gasoline. And while the war ended, its ripple effects continued to destabilize nations, leading to anti-colonial movements and shifts in global power. World War II and Hiroshima. If World War I was a matchstick, World War II was an inferno. By 1945, the world had seen unprecedented destruction, culminating in the dropping of atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The chaos of these events redefined warfare and diplomacy forever. The psychological impact was profound. Survivors of Hiroshima often spoke of Pika-Dawn, the flash and boom, a moment that burned itself into human consciousness. This event is a stark example of how chaos forces humanity to confront its darkest capabilities. but it also led to the formation of institutions like the United Nations and the nuclear non-proliferation movement, demonstrating that even in chaos, there's a drive to create order. World War II also redefined morality in warfare. The Holocaust revealed the depths of human cruelty, forcing the world to confront questions about ethics and responsibility. Hiroshima, meanwhile, opened Pandora's box of nuclear technology, leaving us with the lingering fear of total annihilation. In this sense, the war's chaos didn't just reshape borders, it reshaped how we see ourselves as a species. The war's lessons on unity, destruction, and resilience continue to shape international relations today. Technological chaos, the Industrial and Digital Revolutions. The Industrial Revolution. Think of the Industrial Revolution as humanity's teenage years. Messy, rebellious, and full of potential. From the late 18th to the 19th century, machines revolutionized industries, replacing human labor and causing widespread social upheaval. Luddites famously destroyed machinery in protest, fearing they'd be rendered obsolete. But this chaos wasn't without its rewards. The Industrial Revolution gave birth to urbanization, modern economies, and scientific advancements. It's a testament to how short-term disorder can lead to long-term progress. Yet, the psychological toll, alienation, poor working conditions, and inequality reminds us that not all growth is painless. The revolution also brought about a cultural shift, emphasizing productivity and efficiency at the expense of craftsmanship. This factory mindset spread beyond industries, influencing education, governance, and even relationships. It's a reminder that technological chaos doesn't just change what we do, it changes who we are, and with industrialization came ecological chaos, as factories polluted air and water, setting the stage for today's environmental crises. The digital revolution. Fast forward to the late 20th century, and chaos has gone virtual. The advent of the internet and digital technology has connected billions while creating entirely new challenges. Cybercrime, misinformation, and digital addiction are just a few examples of how this revolution has disrupted societal norms. The psychological principle of information overload is at play here. Like a buffet with too many options, the sheer volume of data can leave us paralyzed and disconnected. Yet, this chaos has also democratized knowledge, allowing anyone with a Wi-Fi connection to access the world's information. It's a modern-day paradox. Infinite connection can still leave us feeling isolated. The digital revolution also raises ethical questions about privacy, artificial intelligence, and the role of corporations in shaping public discourse. Much like the Industrial Revolution, its chaos is reshaping humanity's priorities and potential, leaving us to wonder, are we the masters of technology, or has it mastered us? And as we grapple with these questions, the digital age continues to evolve, blurring the lines between chaos and progress. Social upheaval and cultural chaos. The civil rights movement. Social chaos isn't limited to revolutions and wars. Sometimes it manifests in the fight for equality. The U.S. civil rights movement of the 1950s and 1960s is a prime example. The chaos of protests, marches, and violent backlash shook the nation. Figures like Martin Luther King Jr. harnessed this energy, turning disarray into a disciplined push for change. This struggle highlights a psychological phenomenon: resistance to change. When societal norms are challenged, chaos is inevitable, but it's often a precursor to growth. The movement's successes, from desegregation to voting rights, show that even the most entrenched systems can crumble under sustained pressure. The civil rights movement also laid the foundation for future social justice efforts, proving that progress often emerges from the ashes of disorder. The 1968 global protests. The year 1968 was a whirlwind of global chaos, with protests erupting in Paris, Prague, and Chicago. Students and workers demanded reforms, while governments struggled to maintain order. This wave of chaos stemmed from a universal desire for freedom and equality, reflecting the collective consciousness of a generation. These movements reshaped political landscapes and inspired future activism. They remind us that chaos isn't just destructive, it's also deeply creative, planting seeds for long-term change. The legacy of 1968 endures in today's global protests, where the echoes of that chaotic year can still be heard. From natural disasters to revolutions and technological breakthroughs, chaos has proven to be both a destructive force and a catalyst for transformation. Each chaotic moment forces humanity to confront its vulnerabilities, rethink its priorities, and forge a new path forward. Perhaps, instead of fearing chaos, we should recognize it as the ultimate agent of change. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into history's most chaotic events, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment with your thoughts or suggestions for future topics.